Hello everyone. So in this lecture we are going to study about magnetization vector little more, and then we will see the boundary condition in magnetic field, and finally we discuss induction. Okay, so recall that B is given by mu naught H plus M, and since I know that the point form of Gauss law gives me that del dot B is equals to 0, which means if I apply diversion on both the side of this equation, it going to implies that del dot M is equals to minus del dot H. Okay, so in a permanent magnet, when what happen is that there is no external current. So if you look at the relationship of Ampere law, it becomes that integration of H dot dl is equals to 0 because there is no current enclosed. So this equation is actually true even when you consider a magnet. So this is permanent magnet that I am considering. So even if your loop goes through some area of magnetic material inside, there will be no or any current enclosed. Therefore, integration of H dot dl will be still equals to 0. So because of this, the corresponding point form for the relationship that Gauss law, H is equals to 0. So you can actually express H as scalar magnetic potential. Okay, so what you will get is that the expression for H as a scalar magnetic potential, gradient of scalar magnetic potential Vm, and you can actually derive for the similar equation for H and Vm, and just you have derived it for electric material and call it as Poisson or Laplace equation. So what is happening here, del dot H will be equals to minus del dot gradient of Vm, and if you solve this you will get del square Vm is equals to, if you reverse it, it is minus del dot H. So if you put from this equation, it is equals to del dot M. Okay, and if you think this as a some charge density or magnetic charge density rho m, then the expression for Vm, the magnetic scalar potential, will be minus 1 by 4 pi integration of rho m at the source point dv prime minus dv prime divided by r minus r prime. Okay, why there is a minus sign here? Because if you remember the solution of electric potential, del square V is equals to minus rho V by epsilon naught, and you have seen that there was no minus sign there. So because there is no minus sign here in this expression, del square Vm equals to del dot Vm, this expression will have a minus sign here. Of course, rho m of r is actually diversion of magnetization vector M. So clearly what we have is del dot M is equals to rho m, the volume magnetic charge density. Okay, so Vm written in terms of magnetic charge density or equivalent in terms of magnetic vector del dot M. This dash actually indicates that this is considered to be operated with respect to source. Okay, and this dv prime by 4 pi r minus r prime, this would be the magnetic potential at the source point r. So for a magnetic material, turn out that M is equals to 0. Okay, and outside of the material, M is equals to 0. So if you consider magnetic material, M is equals to 0, this possesses straight trouble in interpreting these equations. Why? Consider a certain magnetic material, and then there is the interior. If you consider any volume element dv prime, okay, and you are looking at magnetic field that at point r, so you can, with respect to all these measurement with respect to origin, you can do that. Okay, so this is r vector, this is r prime vector, this is r minus r prime. Okay, so that is, you are looking at a very far away distance from the magnetic field if you are considering r to be very large than r prime. That is, you are looking at very far away distance. Now if your volume element lies entirely inside the material, then there is no problem. Okay, so your equation can be split into two ways. One equation simply work inside, so volume interior where it has del dot m prime r prime dv prime by 4 pi r minus r prime. Okay, this is no problem here. So there, here looking at the value of m prime, or rather del dot m prime at any point r prime, and then you are summing the contribution because of the entire volume magnetic charge density. However, at the surface, that happen is that you are now in slightly difficult position, because magnetic material is zero outside, but magnetism material is zero outside, but magnetism inside is not zero. So there is some sort of just jump discontinuity that is happening. To consider the jump discontinuity, to describe how to work around with that, one you imagine is a very small shell. This red color is your shell. Okay, small change among the normal to the surface at each point of this magnetic material. That is the normal to the surface, and around that normal to the surface, imagine that here is a small distance dn, and there is an area of this shell itself to be dA. So what is the volume of this thin shell? The volume of this thin shell is d into dA. And then this integral we have done, one part of integral entirely the interior. Then there is a next part of integral which is on shell, which is essentially the surface integral that you have. Again, the integral will not change, so this would essentially be the same integral, except that you are integrating with respect to dn dA rather than dv prime. And remember, magnetization is completely zero outside, and the magnetic outside the magnet, and it would be non-zero inside, so there is jump discontinuity. So if you look them, the jump discontinuity would be of this form. Okay, it would very smoothly go to 0. So the magnetization M around the boundary, this is my boundary, magnetization M around the boundary would go very smoothly to the 0. So in practice that happens, and this is sort of jump discontinuity that you are going to get. So if you imagine a small area dn, when it is what you are looking at, then the change in the magnetization over a small shell along this length dn is given by del dot m dv. Del dot m dv. Okay, and if you remember, what is a diversion? Diversion is essentially del dot m. So del for whatever the way, so you are looking at how the normal component of m changes as you go along the normal to the surface. Okay, so we are always interested in the normal component. So if you again apply the diversion theorem, here you can convert del dot m integral into m dot ds. Okay, or m del dot m dV is actually given by del mn dV integrated into this, you can write by using diversion as ds. Okay, here you will see it is only normal component that is interested to us. So this becomes del dot dV is actually del m and the normal component of magnetization divided by del n. Okay, which gives you the change in magnetization dm, which is diversion multiplied with 1 of the volume of the cell, which is dn dA. Okay, now this is nothing but the total change in the normal component of the magnetization multiplied with del A okay. So now this del mn by del n can be written as delta mn dA. This n will get cancelled out. Okay, now you have, and I already know that this is the change in the magnetization have to be happen only because of interior magnetic field. So this delta m n, which is normal component the outside of the cell minus normal component of inside this cell multiplied by dA, right? So this would be m out minus m in, and this would turn out, since this is 0 but I know that the quantity is 0 outside, so what I actually have is the magnetization in the interior near this cell, the normal component of the magnetization in the interior. So you will actually rewrite this as minus m dot n hat dA, where the normal is the pointing outside, but minus m dot n actually pointing inside. Okay, and this fellow if you substitute into this expression will become, this expression will become the surface charge equivalent surface magnetic charge. So it is actually becoming, this is the first integral, I am putting r, then so the first integral will not change, so I have Bm of r given by minus integral of del dot m dV, and I have removed that m of r prime and everything, then you have 4 pi r. Okay, so this is interior volume integral that you are doing, plus this is corresponding m dot n dA. Okay, and this will becomes, so this becomes surface charge density of rho sm over the surface integral of the shell by 4 pi r. So this is shell surface integral. Okay, so you have actually obtained equivalence surface charge density, which is m dot n. Okay, and you have volume charge density minus del dot m. Okay, so this is volume charge density, this is surface charge density. Minus sign is encountered for diversion and this one. So you also have obtained the volume charge density minus del dot m. Clearly, if you take a rod, a magnetic material which is uniformly magnetized, there will not be any diversion of m inside. So diversion of m is equals to 0 in the interior of this rod, which would be ferronite rod, for example. Okay, and all the changes that you are considering will be equivalent charge at the boundaries. So there will be only plus rho sm at the top and minus rho sm at the bottom. So this would be the equivalent surface charge density that you will have. So in this lecture we will briefly look at the boundary condition for magnetic field. Remember boundary condition for electric field? For electric field we have two laws, the Gauss law for vector D and the curl law for E, and their equivalent integral form, and we applied those integral form across a boundary and we found how the electric flux vector, electric field and electric flux density vector would vary across a boundary. Similarly, we will have two laws here. We are going to use them. One law states that integral of B dot ds is equals to 0, and this is basically del dot B is equals to 0 in the point form. And the second law is integral of H dot dl is equals to I, whatever the current that is enclosed. So these two laws, how would they describe the behavior of B field and H field at the boundary, is what we want to consider. So to consider a medium, we assume that we are having two mediums. And how did these boundary conditions come from? You remember there were 2 points and 2 points were separated by a line, and the line was bisected by a plane. So this is how we describe the boundary condition. Very true. So we are going to do that here also. So if you apply integral of B, this first law, B dot ds is equals to 0. So to apply that, you have to imagine a Pepsi can. So you have to imagine a Pepsi can, and then there is an area of dA, not delta S. We are assuming area as dA. This area dA is pointing in the direction of 2. So this is the pointing direction, and if you assume the normal going from 1 to 2, this is the pointing direction. So if you assume the normal going from 1 to 2 and maybe the normal is from 2 to 1, then dA in the second medium is from 1 to 2. Okay, and so if the normal is going from 1 to 2, you can see that dA in second medium is in the same direction as n. This is my n vector, and in this region 1 it is opposite to the direction. So we will assume that the length delta L goes to 0 later on. Okay, so if you have a magnetic field, that would be two different values over here. What is the component of magnetic field that is important to us in this expression? Only the normal component, because I am considering an integral over a surface area. So only normal component, which means I need to consider Bn here, Bn1 here, and I need to consider here Bn2. So what will happen to the integral of B dot ds? That would be Bn minus Bn1 dA, which is the minus direction, plus Bn2 dA is equals to 0. And it is 0 because this volume of Pepsi can that we consider doesn't enclose any magnetic charge. So there are no magnetic charge, although in previous lecture we used fictitious magnetic charge. So there is no real magnetic charge. Therefore, this will be equals to 0. Now we will see that since this is equals to 0, then Bn1 is equals to Bn2, and I can write this in terms of vector also. So in terms of vector, this is minus n b1 dA plus n b2 dA is equals to 0, and n dot b2 minus b1 is equals to 0. Okay, now when we can have a current enclosed, so only when there is a thin conductive layer. So you have two dielectric medium in between, but if there is one conductor and one dielectric medium, then there can be current. So this is on the plane of the separation between the dielectric and conductor. So you have sheet current. So we are going to consider this particular case to derive the boundary condition. So we will assume that there are these currents which are going inside, okay, which are on the surface and consisting a surface charge density or a surface current sheet. So with that, if you apply Ampere law, so this is essentially Ampere law to this loop, and let's say in this way what you should see is that if there are current that are going inside the page, then there will be a magnetic field in this format. This is the magnetic field. So if the current is going inside, then imagine that these currents lines are all going inside this. These are my current. Okay. So then there is a magnetic field which would be circulating like this. So currents are going inside. So the magnetic field is in the direction in which we have written them down like this. So applying now Ampere law, so the inside the first medium, write down them like this, and H will be the tangential component of H will be HT1 along some length, and let's say this is the tangential component of H in the medium 2 along some length. Then this is equals to this current density Js delta L delta W. The width of this one is delta W. Okay, so as before, we will actually make this delta W goes to 0. So you have HT1 delta L minus HT2 delta L is must be equals to current density on the surface, which would be represented by Js multiplied by del L and del W. Of course, you will divide both the side with this del L. Okay. So this will be like HT1 minus HT2 is equal to Js del W. Okay, and you will be left with Js into W, del W. So Js is ampere per meter square, which is the surface current, multiplied by delta W, which is in meters. So the net result is that you get a sheet current density or current sheet, which is measured in ampere per meter. So the second Ampere law of integral of H dot dl has actually given you second boundary condition, which states that HT1 minus HT2 is equals to Ks, and the corresponding expression in terms of N would be N cross H2 minus H1 will be equals to sheet current density Ks. So these are corresponding boundary conditions that we are looking for. So if one medium is magnetic and the other medium is non-magnetic, we will see that this essentially the same kind of relationship would exist, because if one magnetic B2 will be 0, so the magnetic field would just be continuous across that 2-1. Okay, so the normal component of magnetic field must goes to 0 here. So it do not mean that the tangential component has gone to 0 here, there. So outside, if there are no currents, if between magnetic material and the non-magnetic material there are no currents, then the tangential H field will be continuous. But that would not be really happen for there is current that is induced, and that current will maintain the continuity of H field, because outside the magnetic field H T2 will also be equals to 0. So whatever the H field that would be there, that would result in induced current sheet. It is obvious. So we talk about magnetic matter having been composed of this tiny current loop, and on the surface that what are these current loop doing? These current loops are giving you effective current sheet on the top layer and on the bottom layer and on the surface, depending on what kind of magnetization is there inside. So you end up having a surface current or a sheet current because of these magnetic material. So this was about boundary conditions. There are some fairly simple problem that you can solve. So in this lecture we will discuss inductance, and this is one of the other circuit element that you have encounter apart from resistance and resistor and capacitor. So we have already discussed about capacitor and resistor. Now unlike capacitor or capacitance calculation, you know, inductance normally comes in two flavor. One is self inductance and the other is mutual inductance. Now there is self capacitance as well, but that concept is not widely used as compared to the capacitance between two or more conductor. In contrast, inductance of single circuit or single conductor is as important as that of induction between two conductors. So to probably understand inductance, you need to understand Faraday law, but that is something that we are going to cover in our next lecture. So now we will not introduce complication because of Faraday law. We will simply look at the definition of inductance. Inductance is just like capacitance. Inductance is also a function of geometry, the way the wire are arranged, the way the wire are moving, that define the inductance. So in that respect, inductance and capacitance are essentially the same. So if you recall, capacitance was basically how much flux or electric flux that was contained between two conductors. Similarly, inductance actually tells you flux or magnetic flux in contained between certain conductor or a certain surface that we are going to discuss. Now we didn't really talk about electric flux containing between two surface in the capacitance, although one can actually take that approach rather than we talk about how much charge was stored on a conductor to what is the potential difference that we applied. Now for inductance we will actually talk of flux that is linking particular circuit. So if you have to understand, capacitance and inductance are essentially the dual element, and one can actually talk about aspect of capacitance in a manner that would be exactly same for the inductance and vice versa. So but traditionally it has been the way the discussion has been that the capacitance is discussed by talking about the charge stored to the voltage that is applied, and inductance is talk about in terms of how much flux a particular circuit get linked for a certain current that is flowing in the circuit. So inductance is actually defined as ratio of flux linkage to the circuit to the current that is flowing. Now what do we mean by flux linkage or flux linking? This turned out to be notoriously difficult concept to state it in journal, because there are cases where flux linkage is not so obvious. It is very ambiguous kind of thing. So for a simple geometry, one can actually define what is the amount of flux that is linking particular circuit, but for geometry that are contrived. So it is a kind of difficult to speak very clearly in terms of flux linkage. So for us, flux linking would simply means that the magnetic flux that is linking to a particular circuit. So to appreciate that, consider a circuit. So this is my circuit and there is some current that is flowing through the circuit. Obviously when there is a current flowing in this particular circuit, the circuit is in form of wire that we have considered, and then there is a Magnetic field, so if there is a magnetic field that would be circulating around the current carrying wire. However, not all B line that I am drawing over here. These are the magnetic field lines, and magnetic field lines, not only of them will actually be linking with the circuit C here. See, you can see that the flux that is at the center would not really link, but the flux that would be there, the field lines at the edge would actually be linking. So this is quantitatively the flux that is being linked. So in another word, if the lambda denotes the amount of flux that is being get linked, then this will be given by integration of P dot ds, which is essentially the magnetic flux. So in this simple loop example that we have chosen, even the central field lines would actually link to the circuit and would contribute to the flux linkage. There are certain situations where only partial B field would actually be linked the circuit, and in that case we call it as a partial flux linkage. So in this loop case that we have shown here, the entire B would be actually linking. So that what is the surface area that we are considering? So this is the surface that the circuit contour actually enclose. So for our example, this would be surface area that we are going to look at. L is equals to lambda by I, and this is integration of B dot ds by I. So this is the amount of flux that is linking, and in fact this is the amount of magnetic flux. So if you divided this one by the current that is carried out by the circuit, you will get the inductance. So this is essentially the definition of inductance, and we will study that all about the induction. Okay, so that's all for today's lecture. Thank you.